When I look back on the past 5 years and I think about all the things that I've decluttered and how I sold, donated, or gave away almost everything that we owned after 30 years of emotional hoarding, the fact that we were able to move to Europe with only 8 suitcases is really mind-blowing to me. And it got me thinking about how so many of the important things in my life aren't really about the things at all, but rather about the joy and the value that they've added to my life. Hi, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Marissa and I'm a minimalist mom, and in my past few videos I've been touching on a lot of things like what I don't own anymore as a minimalist, or mistakes that I've made with shopping or acquiring things in the past. But this week I wanted to flip things around to a more positive note, and I wanted to talk about the 10 best purchases that I've ever made in my entire life. It's funny that sometimes you don't know how big an effect something can have on your life at the time, but now looking back on these things that I purchased 1 year ago, 5 years ago, or even 20 years ago, they were life-changing in ways that I couldn't even imagine at the time. Before we get started, I would love it if you would give that like button a little tap and drop me a comment below and let me know what was the best purchase that you've ever made in your entire life. I'm sure that we can get some really cool answers. And if you enjoy videos on decluttering, minimalism, or financial minimalism, please consider going down and hitting the little red subscribe button and ringing the bell to turn on all notifications to join our minimalist family. And let's dive in. Language learning resources. I personally think that learning a new language is one of the best hobbies that someone can ever embark upon. Studying a new language challenges your mind, boosts your confidence, and gives you a practical life skill that can open many doors to travel, to make new connections, or even opportunities for career advancement. I dabbled with languages in the past, and in high school I studied French. In college I took a semester of sign language, and I was actually studying Japanese for fun when I met and fell in love with my husband at a Chinese New Year party. We actually celebrated 11 years of marriage this week. Anyway, my husband's parents, who live here in Germany, don't speak English, so I knew that it was important for me to learn Chinese if I wanted to be able to communicate with them. I used to listen to Chinese lessons in my car during my hour-long commute to my hospital outside of Chicago, and then when we moved to Shanghai and we lived there for 2 years, I got to further develop my Chinese language skills, which was a really amazing immersion opportunity. Obviously, now that we live here in Germany, I need to improve my German. I've had several of you ask me in my various videos about what language programs I use to teach myself Chinese, and I can tell you that I personally really disliked Rosetta Stone, but I enjoyed Pimsleur, Assimil, and FSI Chinese, which you can find for free online. And if I mention any programs or other items, I will make sure to link them down in the description box below so that you can find them easily, if I can do so, because some of these things are not linkable. But I'll try my best to link anything that I mentioned down below if it is possible. A solo train ticket to Paris in 2011. In 2011, my husband had to go on a business trip to France, and it was right outside Paris, which is somewhere that I would always wanted to travel since I had French in high school, and I tagged along with him. And since he was working outside of Paris during the week, I got myself a solo train ticket into Paris a couple days ahead of him so that I could scope out the sights on my own. And this was the first time that I'd ever traveled alone outside of like driving back and forth to Indiana, let alone in a foreign country. So it really was a huge deal for me at the time. I knew enough French to get by, so I bought myself a train ticket. I took the train, and then when I stepped off the train, I just went ahead and grabbed myself a map of the local areas, and I navigated on foot to a cute little bed and breakfast that I had found online in the 8th arrondissement. And after I settled in, I walked around by myself eating a lot of pastries and croque-monsieurs and checking out the local markets, art, and historical locations. I also toured the Champs-Élysées and saw the Arc de Triomphe, but my personal favorite area was Montmartre, with the local artists and performers crowding the streets, and the beautiful Basilica of Les Sacré-Cœur on top of the hill that had a sprawling view of the city. And when my husband came and joined me that weekend, then we went together and we toured the most famous areas. We saw the Louvre with the Mona Lisa, and of course the Winged Nike and the Venus de Milo. And then we went to Notre Dame, and I'm gonna let you know exactly how long ago this was, because here's a picture of my husband literally climbing the steps of Notre Dame on his BlackBerry, writing a work email. I was like, Mr. Zen, We are in an 850-year-old church in Paris. Can you please stop working for a little bit? And then last but not least, we went and saw the Eiffel Tower. That trip was not only magical, but it also taught me that if I was brave enough and I could muster up the courage, I really had the strength to do anything, even things that scared me before, like traveling alone in a foreign country. A good camera. I didn't know it at the time, but this was one of the most important purchases that I would ever make in my life. I bought this Canon T3i Rebel back in 2011 as part of my speech and language evaluations and training back when I was side hustling as a communication consultant in Chicago. So back then, this was a way for me to create extra income streams outside of my job, which is something that I'm sure that you've heard me harp on if you've seen this video about how we eliminated $250,000 worth of debt and saved money as a frugal minimalist family. And at the time, I also didn't realize it, but this camera was a gateway for me to later start my blog and my YouTube channel. And I had to learn so much to be able to do these things. There's so much that you need to know, like how to use a camera, first of all, how to set it up to take a good shot and have good lighting and capture the best photos and edit the photos. And there's so much work that goes into creating a blog post or a YouTube video that you guys don't see. And it's really a labor of love and becomes something that I not only do for work, but also enjoy doing because I love reading the comments that I get from you guys. Like here I am now on day 2. I shot this video yesterday and now I'm sitting here at my computer today with my headphones on, editing it, drinking my coffee, probably need a second cup. So I've probably got another couple hours today and then 2 more days working part-time to try to get this video out for you guys on Friday. Oh my gosh, listen to my computer. Like, my computer is complaining loudly about how hard it has to work. Listen. My T3i Rebel helped me shoot many scenes in my initial videos. But as my channel grew, I invested in a new camera, which I'm actually shooting on right now because this old camera doesn't have autofocus. It's just not something that most cameras had back then, I guess. But it really became a pain in the butt when I was like doing decluttering videos and moving around and I would go out of focus. I do still grab this camera sometimes when I need a second camera or a still shot. And I can say that after 10 years, I've really gotten a lot of use and value out of this item. And speaking about learning new things, I absolutely love learning. And the next item is education. I value all forms of learning, whether it was from my master's degree that I received from Northwestern University, through taking online classes or reading books or even watching YouTube videos. I think it's amazing how much information is out there just waiting for you to discover it. I use Pinterest to help me find new recipes to cook for my family. I have read books that have helped me change my habits or understand my relationships better. And most recently, I've taken some Skillshare classes, and I was actually thinking of taking some gardening or plant care classes on Skillshare as of lately because my husband and I are really finding it difficult to take care of any plants in our home. And actually, he just recently killed 3 out of 4 of our evergreens that we had on our balcony.
He loves them to death by over-fertilizing them.
Anyway, if you love learning, you should find ways to keep learning and educating yourself no matter what stage of life you are at. All-Clad walk. I went through so many cheap pans and pots and things like that when I was in college because I just didn't know any better. And then at our wedding, our best man gifted us with a generous Nordstrom gift certificate and we decided to invest in an all-clad walk. And let me tell you that this walk will last literally forever. It's not cheap and it's heavy as heck, but it's something that I truly feel will last long enough for me to pass it on to my kids. And we were so impressed with the quality that we actually ended up getting a second all-clad item, which was a deep saucepan with a lid and also a splatter screen, which is breathtaking. I can cook large meals in them for my family. They're easy to clean up and they work on gas or induction cooktops too, which is what we have here in Berlin. Accutech Rose Gold Scale. When I first started this journey to declutter my home 5 years ago, I knew that I wanted to sell some of my clutter. There are so many benefits to selling clutter. Not only does it take the burden off overcrowded donation centers and ensure that your stuff doesn't end up in a landfill, it also helps alleviate some of the financial guilt that you might feel about getting rid of unwanted items, and it helps you make sure that your unwanted items end up with someone that you know will love and cherish them. I had certain pieces that I knew would sell better if I offered them globally rather than on a local market, like just with Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. So I bought this little rose gold Accutech scale, which I knew would help me to weigh my items accurately so that I could ship them around the world. And this little baby is accurate down to 0.1 ounce, and it also weighs items that are up to 86 pounds in weight. I sold everything from clothes and shoes that my husband and I didn't want anymore to sentimental clutter that was left behind by my family that I didn't personally want, but I knew someone else would cherish, and tons of baby stuff and so much more. There are a lot of things I had to learn, like how to take good pictures from many angles and how to write titles and descriptions so that people can find the items that I'm trying to sell. And I was a busy stay-at-home mom that was trying to declutter my home and sell off this clutter in my spare time and in between my kids' nap times, but I got to the point where I was able to start making $1,000 per month just selling my unwanted clutter. If you want to know more on this topic, I have some blog posts about my experiences making $50,000 selling our clutter that I will link down in the description box below for you. And I have one video that I will link up here for you, and I do have some more videos on this topic planned in the future. But I am just always so thankful for the freedom that this little scale has allowed me. From the lightness of letting go of clutter, to the joy of passing it on to the right person, to our pursuit of financial freedom, this little scale has opened up so many doors for my family and myself. And speaking of joy, that brings me to the next item on this list, which is our dream home. If you didn't know, my husband grew up poor in rural China, and his family of 7 lived in a 2-bedroom home with stone walls and dirt floors, and they had no heat, no electricity, no gas for fires or running water, and they were so poor that they couldn't even afford rice to eat. Things got better when they immigrated to Germany and opened a Chinese restaurant, but needless to say, things were tough for them for a while. I, on the other hand, lost my parents and my childhood home when I was in my early 20s. And I remember I used to get so jealous of my college friends who had parents and homes to go back to that could leave during breaks and go see their families. Because ever since I moved out when I was 17 years old, I knew that I was always going to have to be moving to the next apartment or the next rental, and I never really felt like I was home. Although they say home is where the heart is, it didn't really feel like that to me because I was constantly on the move. When we decided to buy this home here, it really felt like the first time in 20 years that I could walk through the door and say, I'm home. We live in a 100-year-old home, and although the squeaky floors drive us crazy, we've been very thoughtful about what we bring into our home and how to decorate it with love and our own personality so that we aren't bringing in a bunch of useless clutter, but rather surrounding ourselves that really contribute a lot of value to our life and make us happy. The next item on this list is the Ninja Blender. And I did a video on fantasy self items to declutter, and I talked about my history with kitchen items. In particular, bunk cake pans and Instant Pots were things that I thought I would get a lot of use out of and enjoy, but sadly let me down very much so. On the other hand, I love my Ninja Blender, and I use it for everything from making smoothies to making muffin recipes, and sometimes I use it to crumble up breadcrumbs and make meatballs for my kids. And by the way, if you want my meatball recipe, I will link it down in the description box below as well. I just got this comment this morning on my recipe, so you know it's legit. And the best part is it's packed with healthy veggies and so yummy that not even picky eaters can resist these meatballs. At one point, I was actually questioning, did I want to declutter 2 of the blender accessories because I wasn't using them at the time. But then my husband has started using them to make his protein shakes in the morning. So that's something that we actually did end up recovering from the quarantine bin. The next item on this list is a good bed frame and mattress. The average person sleeps 8 hours a day, which means you spend around a third of your life sleeping. When we bought our new home, we actually had a little bit of a hard time finding furniture right away because it was right smack dab in the middle of the dumpster fire that was 2020. And we were having a hard time finding simple bed frames that were affordable and also came with slats. And we finally found the perfect bed frame on made.com. And this bed frame was a steal at 300 euros for both the slats and the bed frame. It's called the Kano bed, and you can order it in walnut, white, or pine. We chose to go with the natural pine color, and my husband kept saying how impressed he was with the quality of this bed because it was so sturdy and it was really easy for us to put together. And all four of us can comfortably fit and snuggle on the bed without any difficulty. It also helped us cut down on bedroom clutter in our small bedroom, which I recently mentioned in this video on things I no longer own because we don't need nightstands since it has this little shelf area that you can kind of hide stuff underneath your pillow at the back of it. As for the mattress, we were able to find one local business that was open that made handcrafted mattresses out of natural materials, so we were really happy to get a high quality mattress while also supporting small businesses in these tough times. And last but not least on this list, we have an e-reader. This Kindle and the case was actually gifted to me by my sweet friend Christine from Little House on the Corner, but I have spent money purchasing ebooks for it, so I'm putting it on this list. And I think that it is a 4th generation, which means that it was released in 2011. So this thing is now 10 years old, but it still functions really well. And for a long time, I didn't have much time to read because I was working so hard to declutter our home and sell or donate or give away my clutter on top of being a mom and just simply maintaining the household. But now that things have settled down and I have more free time, I enjoy occasionally sitting down to read a good book on the Kindle. And I like that having a Kindle means that I don't have to accumulate a lot of books, although I definitely still buy children's books for my kids. I'm currently reading The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which I've been seeing on a lot of must-read lists lately, and I mean, who doesn't want to be more effective and efficient? I think an e-reader would make a great gift for any minimalist or even non-minimalist, and I know Christmas is coming up, so if you want more minimalist gift ideas, make sure to check out this blog post with 40 practical and simple gift ideas. I hope you enjoyed this list of the 10 best purchases that I've made in my entire life, and if you haven't already, please make sure to hit that like button and drop your best purchase down in the comments section below for me to read, and I'll see you again next week. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.